What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hands-On channel. I'm glad you stopped by. Today I want to talk to you about some pretty serious issues here. In fact, what I think is the most critical issue that the United States is facing today. We could look around the world at what's going on. I mean, we could look over at Ukraine and Russia. Is that any of our business? Should we be there? Should we be sending, billions and hundreds of billions of dollars to a person that has no accountability, that's just basically giving this money out to possibly our enemies and stuff like this? Rumor has it that a lot of these weapons that were found in possession of Hamas came from the Ukraine stockpiles, and some of that funding may be going over there. We don't know. It's unconfirmed. That's just one of the rumors that I'm reading. Is that our number one problem that the United States is facing? Is the expansion of Russia or the rebuilding of the former Soviet Union? I don't think so. That's more of a European problem, in my opinion. Now, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do anything, but we shouldn't be doing what we're doing with our taxpayer money, in my opinion. Is it the Hamas attack on Israel and now Israel's counter response attacking Gaza and Hamas and all this? Is that our number one issue that we're facing? No. Again, these are borders that are thousands and thousands of miles away from the United States of America. So, is our number one problem over in Israel and the Middle East with all this stuff that's going on? They're basically the reforming of the caliphate. I mean, that is a big deal, and we should be trying to do what we can to stop that. But at the same time, just because I say something like that doesn't mean I'm pro-Israel or pro-Hamas or any of this stuff. I'm obviously not pro-Hamas. I'm more pro-Israel, but I'm most importantly pro-America. Before I'm pro-Israel or pro any of our allies or anything like that, I'm pro-America. And so today's video, we're going to focus on what I think is the number one critical issue that's facing the United States of America. If I had to name a single person that's the most dangerous threat against the freedom and the liberty and the future of the United States of America, that's obviously Joe Biden and his whole administration and all of the puppet masters that are pulling his strings behind the scenes. But to point to a single issue that's our biggest issue, you could look around. There's lots of things going on. It could be the economy. It could be, so many things that Joe Biden has screwed up. Everything he's touched, he's screwed up, right? Is it the, return of COVID or something like that? That's the biggest threat. No, it's not that. It's the invasion that's taking place on our southern border primarily, although it is also going to our northern border now with Canada. So anyway, I believe the invasion into our country with all of these people that many of them don't speak the native language here, English. Many of them have been raised in third world circumstances. So they have a third world mentality. And for them to come into the first world, the United States of America, and immediately get on all of our benefits, there's lots of rumors that have been going around that people like George Soros and others, the UN is sending tons and tons of money in the form of like debit cards to these illegal immigrants, right? Or illegal aliens is what I like to call them. So anyway, that's what I think the number one problem we're facing in the United States of America to our national security. And if you remember, I talked about it 2 or 3 videos ago that it states in the Constitution that one of the duties of the president and the senators and the congressmen that we elected is to ensure a Republican form of government throughout all the states and to protect us against invasion. My opinion is this is an invasion. Several states have declared that. I believe Texas and possibly Arizona. I don't know if New Mexico did, but several of the states in the union have declared that they have an invasion going on their southern border. So I want to read through some of these headlines here and show you why I'm so worried about this. For one, again, as far as immigration goes, the legal immigrants that come here oftentimes turn out to be the most patriotic people you'll ever meet. I mean, these people are like old school Americans because they came from a place where they see, they've seen the other side. Maybe they came from a communist nation, or they came from a third world nation where it's run by drug lords and dictators and stuff like this. And they come here and they see how great the United States is. And oftentimes those are some of the best, most patriotic people you'll come across. So I don't want to stop that, but by Biden opening the gates down below and doing all this stuff to undermine the efforts of Texas and Arizona and these other states to protect their own sovereign borders is, in my opinion, unconstitutional and highly illegal. And this is the thing that they need to go after Joe Biden on harder than anything else. We need to quit worrying about business that has nothing to do with our national sovereignty, business that has nothing to do with the stuff that's going on, the directives that are laid out in the Constitution. These people have a simple job: to uphold and defend the Constitution, to protect the Constitution against enemies, both foreign and domestic. And yet we have a domestic enemy currently sitting in the White House right now that's undermining every single effort that's being made by the states. So let's get into this, and you guys will see why I'm so concerned about the southern border especially. Massive caravan of illegals marching to U.S. on Joe Biden's open border invitation. I mean, he rolled out the red carpet. He told people he wasn't going to turn people away. We remember seeing the images of people coming in by the thousands with "Joe Biden, let me in" shirts or whatever it was. I'll insert the picture right here so you guys can see that if you don't remember. But yeah, that happened. Somewhere they got the money to print out all these T-shirts, and they came to the United States because Joe Biden said he was going to consider them climate or economic refugees and give them refugee status. It's complete BS. It's a workaround of our national sovereignty, and I don't appreciate it not one bit. It plays right into the hands of the UN's replacement migration plan. Go look it up. It's the reason Europe is going to hell right now, and they want the United States to be right there with them. And honestly, it's something like 10 million have come in illegally since that we know of that have been apprehended on the border. 10 million apprehensions on the southern border since Joe Biden took office. That is treasonous, in my opinion. Next headline. More terror suspects are reaching the U.S. Here are the known unknowns of the Biden border crisis. They won't even call it a border crisis. No Democrats will even go down to the southern border because they know they've fucked it up beyond all recognition. So, this is a bad deal because these people, again, they're not sending their best and their brightest. The people that are coming over here illegally, in many cases, not all of them, but in many cases, are rapists, murderers, gang members, drug lords, coyotes smuggling people and taking advantage of people and stuff like this. I mean, it's just unbelievable. There is people that are good would look at the risky situations that these migrants are being put in and be appalled, right? Most normal people would be like, oh my God, people are drowning in the Rio Grande. And, I saw a video, I didn't actually include it in my headlines here, but they found down in Mexico, they found a big giant earth oven that somebody had cut up because they're putting bodies in there and burning them. The cartel people are burning their people alive or dead, whatever. They're getting rid of the bodies. They're burning them up. I mean, supposedly the Border Patrol came along and the hole that they had dug was still smoldering and they seen the dead bodies and the bones and stuff like this. So, I mean, it's just atrocious. Anybody with, a tiny little bit of a conscience inside of them would be like, hey, this is wrong. We got to stop this. If nothing else, to protect the people that don't know any better. Moving on. CBP, and that stands for Customs and Border Patrol, confirms second straight year for 2 million migrant apprehensions at the southwest border. Unbelievable. So that's 4 million right there. They claim 10 million have come in, and who knows how many have come in that have not been apprehended. That's the point. Arguably, it's double. It could be 20 million. It could be up to 20 million illegals that have crossed into our border. That is an invasion. Change my mind. Come into the comments and let me know if you don't think what's going on is an invasion, or if you're one of these weirdos that thinks we shouldn't have borders at all. I mean, there's a reason we have borders. We have to have national sovereignty. We have to have, a line in the sand that says, hey, you can't cross here. I don't necessarily think we need to patrol the border or control the border with a wall. We've got plenty of technology with drones and all sorts of other stuff that we could use, Governor Perry, what's his name? It's not Perry. I can't remember the Texas governor's name, but the Texas governor had these floating barriers. And of course, Biden made them take it down. I don't know where that stands today, but the last I heard, a federal judge had ruled that they couldn't have these floating barriers that were working to stop people from swimming across the Rio Grande. A little while back over in Arizona, earlier on in Biden's administration here, or his term, they had built a massive, beautiful shipping container wall, and it was working. It was keeping people out. Federal judge came in, said, you got to tear it all down on their dime. So this is costing Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, all the other border towns or border states. It's costing them out the ass. And Biden is undoing and undermining every attempt they make to control their own borders. I mean, that's treasonous. Treasonous. An act of treason. And he ought to be dealt with like a traitor to the United States of America, because that's exactly what he is. He's not upholding and defending the Constitution as written. It doesn't say anything in the Constitution about Israel's borders or, protecting Israel against invasion, or Ukraine. It doesn't say anything about that. It says protect the United States of America against invasion. They're not doing it. Exclusive. 1,800 migrants crossed into Texas border town in 24 hours. How would you like to be in that border town? Maybe you have lived there all your life. Your family has lived there all their lives. And now all of a sudden you're being undermined by people like Joe Biden telling Mayorkas and all these others to tell the Border Patrol to not enforce the borders. I mean, this is insanity on display. And yet everybody's all in a tizzy about everything else that's going on around the world when we should be worried about what's going on in our own backyard. We should be spending, if we have to, $100 billion on a border wall or border security of some kind, but we're not doing that. We're sending it to Zelensky so it can be laundered over there and kicked back to all the fat cat politicians that are getting those kickbacks. It ain't me and you. We're paying for it. We ought to be pissed off. Everybody ought to be livid about this deal that's going on right now, but not many people are. It doesn't seem like it anyways. I talk to other people and they're just like, oh, it's not that big a deal. But I think they don't know how big of a deal it really is. And because the mainstream media is downplaying this, right? So Texas and other states have been trying to do things along the way, like I said. Texas legislature just recently passed 2 bills criminalizing illegal migrant entry into the state. And so I guess it wasn't criminalized before, but now it is. They're saying, hey, we're drawing a line in the sand. You can't come here. The federal government won't enforce the border, so we will. And they sent their own National Guard down there and stuff, although like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I saw a video where a Texas National Guard member was cutting the Constantine wire that they had put down. Texas has been spending all kinds of money, taxpayer money, to try to stop this stuff because, Biden won't do it. He's letting the materials that Trump allocated and paid for, he's letting them, they were selling them. I can't remember how cheap it was, but it was basically pennies on the dollar. We spent, billions and billions of US dollars, taxpayer dollars, and Biden sold them to the lowest bidder because, again, it all plays into destroying every single thing that's good about the United States of America. They're spending money like it's going out of style, and then when it comes to sell this stuff, because he refuses to put up any border wall, then he gives it away to the lowest bidder, it seems like. They sell it for scrap prices when we paid gold prices for it. So anyway, moving on. Exclusive photos. 169 migrants in a single group cross into a Texas border town. So again, how would you like that if that was your place and you'd been living there all your life and your family owned a home there or land there and you can't even, have livestock because the illegals that are coming through are cutting your fences and trampling your crops or whatever the hell they're doing, robbing you blind in some cases. Unbelievable. Texas governor orders a barrier along the border wall with New Mexico and Mexico. So apparently they're coming through New Mexico because it's easier entry, and then they're sneaking into Texas because that's where, a lot more opportunity is. You can't make this stuff up. This is communism on full display. That's why I've got my anti-communist glasses on to read this crap, because Biden is a commie. And all the people around him are communists. They want to destroy the United States of America. Every single thing good about it. They don't want to uphold and defend the Constitution. They want to burn it. Exclusive. Constantina wire. I can hardly say that. Concertina wire fails to hold migrants back in Texas border town. And I saw video clips about that where they were actually laying the Border Patrol was throwing cardboard over the Constantine wire so that these illegals could lay it on top of there and cross safely. Is that in their job description? Or the National Guard member that cut the wire 4 or 5 weeks ago? I mean, what happened to him? I heard he got disciplinary action taken on him, but I mean, the guy needs to be fired. You have one job. We've told you to, protect our border and keep people out, and yet you're cutting the wire. Just unbelievable. And I'm going to insert a video right here. It's worse than that, guys. I saw a video clip the other day where all of a sudden the Border Patrol pulls up with this outdoor industrial type forklift, and they slide the big forks underneath the, it was one of the ones with the real long forks on it. So they slide them underneath the Constantine wire and they raise it up, and then they're waving people in. You've invited them in.
I'm Efrain Gonzalez, correspondent with Border Hack News. These are exclusive images of how mass crossings of hundreds of migrants are being carried out in recent days at Eagle Pass, raising the barbed wire with machinery. This huge caravan of around 300 migrants crossed into Eagle Pass thanks to Border Patrol agents lifting the barbed wire. The hundreds of migrants crossed in a few minutes, this being the 4th massive crossing that our cameras witnessed in the last days of October. Previously, these caravans are sent to uninhabited areas of the Rio Grande, where Border Patrol awaits them with forklift tractors. Given these facilities, migrants say they prefer to cross the river instead of processing legal entry.
¿El plan cuál es ahora? ¿Cruzar por el río Bravo con sus niños o CBP-1?
Cruzar por el río Bravo y primeramente en el nombre de Dios.
¿Qué no pasa?
Se tarda mucho. Sí. Y nosotros no tenemos recursos para quedarnos.
Somehow these large groups of migrants are informed about the place and time when the forklifts raise the barbed wire to cross in drops.
And I don't know if this is coordinated, if George Soros, Open Source Foundation or Open Society or whatever the hell, Open Border Foundation that George Soros runs or whatever. I don't know if he's coordinating this stuff or who's doing it necessarily, but it seems to be coordinated. These people are being told to meet at a certain place, and they're piling up and they're grouping up, and then when there's enough of them there, the Border Patrol under Mayorkas and Joe Biden's orders will come along and raise the Constantine wire up so they can crawl underneath there without getting a scratch on them. I mean, isn't that lovely? Isn't that nice? So let's say, I was just thinking of something here. They're an accessory to this criminal violation. So if I had a buddy of mine that robbed a bank or something, and he showed up and told me he robbed a bank, and I was trying to hide him out, and the cops caught up to us, they would get me as an accessory to that action, whatever that action was, right? Robbing a bank in that example. So Biden and Mayorkas and the Border Patrol and some of the Texas National Guard are accessories to breaking the United States law, and I think that they should be dealt with as criminals. Of course, they won't, because Biden controls the Justice Department. Federal judge orders Biden administration to stop cutting the Texas border barriers. So they've got a temporary injunction against Biden and the Border Patrol from cutting these barriers. Now, I don't know if this injunction came first before that forklift went under and raised that stuff up like that, like I was showing you there, but hopefully in the future they won't be able to do that. Although, the Biden administration and Mayorkas and people like that, the law only works one way for them. It only works against, Trump supporters and conservatives, Republicans, those kinds of people. The law is being weaponized against them. But when they break the law, when the left breaks the law, they look the other way. They pretend it didn't happen. So that's been a constant threat. That's also part of this whole problem. The rules for thee, not for me. So next up here, 150,000 migrants apprehended in Arizona border sector in the past 3 months. Again, how would you like that if that was your town? Being overrun with people that don't even speak the language, people that don't have hardly any money or a pot to piss in. They're going to be desperate. They're going to be tempted to steal that thing that you have or come into your house and do god-awful things to your family. Unbelievable. I mean, you just can't have a clash of civilizations like this. And again, I think it's all being done intentionally by the UN to destroy the greatest nation on the face of the earth, or what's left of it. Although I'm questioning that after the 2020 election and seeing my fellow Americans putting up with so much tyranny, soft tyranny, that's gripping all around the nation. And my fellow Americans are, I guess they're okay with it because hardly anyone's saying anything. They won't even bother to pick up the phone and call their representatives or their senators and stuff. So, guys, this may be the beginning of the end for the United States of America. And especially if this stuff is allowed to stand. I mean, for one thing, even if we did reverse policy tomorrow, let's say that somehow they made Biden enforce the border, right? There's still 10 million of them that have come in here. That's a significant proportion of our society, right? I don't see it on the list here, but I must have skipped this headline. Somewhere along the way, the headline was, more illegal aliens have come over the Texas border in, I believe, 1 year than the population of Houston. Okay? Houston, if you've ever been to Houston, it's freaking huge. There's lots and lots of people, millions and millions of people there. And the amount of migrants apprehended outnumbers that. That ought to make you, take a step back and go, wait a minute, what's this guy doing? I mean, what are we going to do? I know there was a joke for years and years on South Park, and it was funny. They would be like, they took our jobs, they took our jobs. That whole thing, right? They're actually going to take your jobs, and it's not going to be funny. Nobody's going to be joking about it anymore after this crap happens. So listen to this. Mayor Eric Adams warns again, illegal immigration is devastating New York City. So it's devastating New York City. But wait a minute. Wasn't he the one that said New York City is a sanctuary city? Now he's got a bad taste in his mouth because people are like, hey, we don't like this. And he's trying to double back on that? No, don't let him get away with anything. This guy needs to be run out of office. A lot of these people need to be tarred and feathered, but anyway, that's for another video. So check this out. Chicago has got a solution. It's going to solve all their problems, right? Chicago is looking to export illegal border crossers to St. Louis, Missouri. So they're just going to put their problem off on someone else, see? See how that works? Anywhere but here? Even though Chicago was another one of those cities that was supposed to be a sanctuary city. So I love watching liberals eat humble pie, although they never eat it. They just get it all over their face and look like crap, but they should be eating the humble pie and saying, hey, I was wrong about that. But they never do. They never admit they were wrong. They just keep moving on, kick the football down the road a little further, whatever. Kick the problems out of your state onto St. Louis, Missouri. I wonder what the people of St. Louis have to think about this new plan that Chicago has. Again, making Chicago an accessory to a crime, at least in my opinion. The biggest thing we're facing right now, a border invasion. Our way of life will cease to exist. Our culture, everything great about the United States, if you keep flooding us with people that are from third world countries, most of them South American, but there are a lot of people coming in from the Middle East too. And I would think that would be a pretty big deal and a pretty big reason we should shut our border down just because of what's going on over in Israel and with Hamas and Gaza and all that crap. But no, I guess, I'm the last one that's thinking that sort of stuff. And certainly the administration is not going to do the right thing and shut the border down because they need those people to vote for them, or they need those people to appear to vote for them in the next election cycle. That's what's happening. And in many states, they're registering these illegals to vote. Check it out. So listen to this, the human cost of this, right? It's easy for me to sit here and go, oh yeah, don't come here, you're different than us and all this, right? But I'm a compassionate person. When I hear about people getting hurt, last summer, I think it was, maybe it was the first summer that after Biden, stole the 2020 election. But they found that whole truck with I think it was 80 people that were dead in the back of that semi truck down in Texas because some coyote pulled over, or some cartel member pulled the truck over and left them sitting there baking out in the sun. I mean, that is horrific. I don't care who you are. I don't care what country you come from. You don't deserve that sort of a fate, right? So Listen to this graphic. Mexican border city reports 42nd migrant drowning this year. Just this year, 42 people, many of them women and children, drowned in the Rio Grande trying to get here. Why did this happen? Because Biden turned on the magnet. He said, if you come here, we're going to give you free stuff. We're going to give you welfare. We're going to give you a debit card that the UN is going to continually put more and more money on so you can have all the stuff you wanted to, you can have whatever you want. And in some way or another, I'm sure the United States and our taxpayer dollars are funding that bullshit. It's not just the southern border, though. There has been a massive increase on the northern border as well. 7,000 migrant apprehensions at the U.S. Canadian border sector exceed prior 11 years. So if you don't think we have a problem, just take that last headline there and look at that. We didn't have all these people coming in. And see, the thing is, a lot of these people that are coming in from the northern border, they're Chinese nationals, they're Iranians, they're Palestinians, they're, Syrians, they're from Jordan, whatever, they're from the Middle East, they're from the sandbox, they're from places that are third world countries run by Sharia law in many instances, or, a dictator. And so for them to come in and assimilate to our country is not the plan. They don't want them to assimilate to our ways. They want us to make exceptions for them to bring their own culture into our country. And that's not right. You can't have a future with a business model like this. So guys, let me know down in the comments what you think about all this. Am I right? Is the number one issue that we all ought to be focusing on the invasion on the southern border? I mean, do we have an invasion? Let me know what you think down in the comments. I always love reading them. And until then, guys, I stand for liberty to the bitter end. And I hope you do too.